Hey everyone, so I just wrapped up lunch and I looked down at my watch as I do about 400 times a day, and the price of Bitcoin is at 65,500 per coin, which is a few $1,000s higher than it was yesterday, and it's been trending up. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to use the rest of my lunch break here to figure out why Bitcoin is at above $65,000 per coin, and rather than just do it on my own time and for my own conclusions and maybe have a chance to do a Facebook Live video later, I figured I would do a Facebook Live video showing exactly the process I go through in case you want to do the same. Now, I explained my process on a previous video, so if you want, you can go back and look at that video, and I explain step by step exactly what I'm doing today. So everything I'm about to do, you can go and I explain my logic and I explain why I do it in a previous video. But in this case, I'm going to do it all live right now while I share my screen. So hopefully that's helpful. All right, so I am going to share my screen, and here we go. Okay, so as I talked about, the first thing I do is I open up Coinbase. Now, in this case, I'm just going to use Google Finance because you can't really see Coinbase on my phone. So the first thing I do is I open it up and I check the price of Bitcoin. And it's like, okay, interesting. It's up, 3.5% in the last 24 hours. Okay, so the first thing I do is I'm like, okay, what about the last 5 days? All right, it's been a bit choppy, but it's higher than it's been the last 5 days. So maybe something's going on there. All right, let's keep going. The last 1 month. All right, it's higher than it's been any time in the last 1 month. Now it's been, consistently rising since September 7, but it's, higher today, enough so that possibly there's a reason we could figure out why. All right, so let's go to the last 6 months. Choppy, still down from the all-time high 6 months ago. And then year to date, it's up 48%. And then in the last 1 year, Bitcoin's up 150%. Still, so we've had this whole period here for about 6 months from that high peak in March. I think it was March 13 or March 14. I think the high was actually March 14, but regardless, we've had about 6 months of choppiness, and at some point we'll get this sort of huge rise again, and we'll find out when that is. If you look at historically, well, you can go to like Max, you'll see typically Bitcoin does not stay at a high, like way back here. Let's see if I can even zoom in. I'm not even sure if it's going to let me. I don't think it will. Anyway, Bitcoin did not stay up here at these peaks, right? It peaked and then it came right back down. And then you got like 6 months here and 6 months here, 6 months here, 6 months here. Then you had a huge rise. But even here, it only stayed there from February till May. So, and then there was a big dip and then it was up and then it went up here. So Bitcoin has been, the average price of Bitcoin has been much higher in the last 6 months than at any time in its history. Even back here in 2021, if you took a 6-month average, you did not end up with a price. You maybe ended up with a price in the 40,000s. You didn't end up with a price in the 50 or 60,000s. So, and the anticipation, of course, is that Bitcoin will do exactly what it did here, so that these, what look like mountains now will look like these molehills back here. And so it'll just set a whole new level. Okay, so the first thing I do is I check that, and I'm like, okay, at least the 1 month and the last 5 days, it does seem materially higher. Let's find out why. Okay, as I said in a previous video, the next thing I do is I look at the stock market indexes. Now, normally I would look at this on the Stocks app on my phone, but since my phone's hard to see, I just use MarketWatch. But anyway, so I look at this and I'm like, okay, the Dow Jones Industrial is up 0.5%, 0.5%. The NASDAQ is up 0.25%. The S&P 500 is up 2.23%. That's probably not the reason Bitcoin's up. I mean, maybe, but it's, there's not a lot of upside there. It's not like it's up 1 or 2 or 3% or something crazy, and then Bitcoin's just being dragged with it. Okay, so that's what I do. So third, I Google Bitcoin. Literally, I Google the word Bitcoin. I go in here and Google, I type Bitcoin, I hit go, and of course, it'll show you the same chart we were just looking through. And then I scroll down and I try to, so in this case, if I go over here to tools, then instead of results anytime, I want only the results in the last 24 hours. The reason is I checked the price of Bitcoin in the last 24 hours before the last few thousand of increase. And so, for example, last night it was around 63,000. Now it's at 65,000. So I'm going to restrict the searches to only the last 24 hours, which will only give me news. Now, if it's been a week, or if it's been more than 24 hours since I last checked the news headlines, I would set it to 1 week. But in this case, I'm setting it 24 hours. All right, so let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. I'm just going to read some headlines. All right. So the street says Bitcoin signals epic bull run inbound. So if I had time, I'd go in. Surge in global liquidity and financial institutions embracing Bitcoin. That's probably the result of China announced a massive stimulus package. They're basically going to print a bunch of money. The US on September 18, so about 8 days ago, announced that they are cutting interest rates by 0.5 percentage point. So all of that is just, throwing a bunch of new money, whether, yuan or yen or US dollars into the system. So, all right. So the first headline is maybe Bitcoin's rising just due to global liquidity, money printing. Just in general, the money printer is ramping up, starting with, the US and now China and others are falling into place. All right, Forbes, you can normally ignore. I'll pull it up here, but the rapid pace Bitcoin price earthquake predicted to shock. Like Forbes, the headlines are always ridiculously over the top. And so I basically ignore Forbes unless there's something that looks like an actual news story instead of just clickbait. Anyway, all right, Bitcoin price hit 65,000 as investors plug $500 million into ETFs. So money is flowing into the ETFs. This claims whales and sharks are the ones buying the Bitcoin. Gary Gensler was on CNBC saying, once again, Bitcoin is not a security, it's a commodity. We all know that, but it's nice to have the head of the SEC reiterating what we already know. Then there's an article about October. So historically, even though September, this has been the best September for Bitcoin since 2016, October is one of the best months in generally the year. Everybody's back from vacation. Everybody's plugged in. Everybody's not sort of all into Christmas and all that sort of stuff yet. So October, people in the stock market and in Bitcoin call October. And again, maybe we're just getting close to October and people are starting to put money in Bitcoin. Let's see more about Gary Gensler. Let's see. Okay, Bitcoin jumps over 64,000 on China stimulus. So this article, CoinDesk, normally CoinDesk and Cointelegraph here and here are two of the best sources to find Bitcoin news. They're two of the most credible. So again, not that these others are not helpful, but typically I often read CoinDesk and Cointelegraph because they do a lot more journalistic reporting as opposed to crazy YouTube videos that we see down here where everybody's going crazy and it's all just clickbait. But anyway, so BlackRock report adds fuel to debate over Bitcoin's price. So here's a Forbes article talking about this BlackRock report that I posted. So that's good news, and that happened. That news is from today. So Fortune's covering it today. Maybe that gives Bitcoin a little bit of a bump. And then I would normally go back and see this Cointelegraph says why it's struggling to hold above 64. U.S. elections and potential stock market bubble amplify concerns. So people are worried when the stock market bubble crashes that it might drag Bitcoin down with it. And the U.S. elections create uncertainty, and investors never like uncertainty. Let's see what else we got here. Well, so there was 3 reasons, but I am only immediately seeing, I guess, fear of recession impacts investor sentiment, and maybe the other one was, I don't know, whatever. All right, let's see if we can hit, so CoinDesk here, Bitcoin has, okay, monetary stimulus in the US and China appear to be the catalyst for cryptos run higher. Again, the reason I like CoinDesk and Cointelegraph is they actually try to find the answer, right? So, somebody is actually on record at CoinDesk saying monetary stimulus in the US and China appear to be the catalyst for cryptos run higher. Like they're actually making an effort today, all as of 2 hours ago, to actually say why they think the price moved. And so again, that's a pretty good indication that they're probably right. So this article is definitely worth reading. And again, it's probably going to say what the headline says. Boomer gold is now Bitcoin. So Forbes. Now, I do read Forbes when they have articles like this. Boomer gold is now Bitcoin. That's like a legit journalistic reporting, as opposed to up here, you got Forbes, rapid pace earthquake shock. Like Forbes always has some news article that's nothing but clickbait, sort of, over the top headlines. But they do good reporting if it's just like Boomer gold is now Bitcoin, and they're actually a journalistic reporter article. But a lot of times in the feeds, it's just junk, like it's junk clickbait. But that article is one that I'll read later. As Bitcoin market evolves, tokenized assets on the probably blockchain, tokenized assets are on the rise. Okay, I'll probably read that article later just to see what that's up to. All right, so that's the first page of Google. So what we've learned so far, probably do the Bitcoin price rise is probably just the markets adjusting to the fact that on September 18, the Fed said they're going to print a bunch of money, or a medium amount of money, 0.5% rate cut. And then China says they're going to print a ton of money. So anyway, and that happened earlier this week. So it looks like the best I can tell from the news so far is those things are trickling into the how people are making buying and selling decisions, and the Bitcoin price rise is happening as a result. Global liquidity is one of the best correlations with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a store of value, and when all the money printers are going burr and cranking out massive amounts of money, obviously Bitcoin is there as an inflation hedge from the inflation that will cause. So, as the global economy starts cranking out and printing a bunch of money, Bitcoin will rise because people will be trying to find some place to keep their assets where they don't get inflated away. One second. All right, so we have our hypothesis. The price rise today is probably a function of just the US and China stimulus, and the fact that the stock market is up a little today. That never hurts, even if doesn't appear to be the main reason. And that sort of the ETFs are seeing inflows, and generally everybody's just feeling good about Bitcoin today. All right, let's flip over to X. I'll refresh it here, and let's see what X tells us might be happening. Let's go down here. People are saying, anytime that Coinbase goes down due to, excessive demand, it's the sign of the start of a bull market. Coinbase has gone down a number of times as the market over the years has gotten especially heated. I don't know if that's any correlation here. Let's see. What do we else? NYDIG put out a big report that I'm in the process of reading about how Bitcoin is protected under First Amendment laws of freedom of speech. So I'm in the process of reading that. Again, another good data point, and probably another reason people are saying, oh, well, maybe Bitcoin's on more solid, even legal footing than we thought. All right, let's see what else we got here. We got a bunch of historical stuff. People advertising that they're buying Bitcoin. The greatest redemption arc in the history of. Okay, and people talking about MicroStrategy. Kristen Smith, I'll probably read that later to see what the policy highlights are in the world. BlackRock's head of digital assets is on Bloomberg talking about Bitcoin. That always is a good thing. Bitcoin-backed lending is being able to borrow against your Bitcoin. Obviously, is high risk. All right, so we got something. The collapse of the US dollar is happening right before our eyes. I'm sure glad Satoshi invented Bitcoin. This is US interest expense versus defense spending. So obviously spending's out of control. And let me see if there's anything else here, and then we'll switch on. Yeah, so nothing really on X that would give us a clear indication of what's going on, other than just general monetary debasement. So here, currency devaluation, the greatest theft of time and energy in the history of mankind. This is probably worth a repost here. I'll pull this up. The Nigerian Naira is down 99%. The Chinese yuan is down 99%. The Indian rupee is down 99%. I'm assuming this is versus a basket of currencies. Maybe this is versus Bitcoin. I don't know. Let's see if it's the year 2000. I don't know. This has got to be as compared to Bitcoin or something like that. But Bitcoin wasn't even here for the first part of this. So I don't know what they're comparing this to. Japanese yen's down 50%. US dollar is down 78%. Let me see what they're comparing it to. Yeah, if I had more time, I'd go figure out what their benchmark is. If that's, CPI, consumer price inflation. This is how the US dollar is doing. This is the consumer price index from 1950. So something that used to cost $20 back in, World War II times now cost, $300, $320. So anyway, but normally I just scroll through X and just see if there's anything in here. And just see, oftentimes there will be something in here that gives an indication of why Bitcoin's doing what it's doing, but it looks like it's too early. It looks like, probably in the next hour, 2 or 3, we'll see people posting about sort of why Bitcoin's up at 65,300 right now. All right. So the last thing, this is sort of bonus, but I like to check the mempool, which is sort of the vital stats of Bitcoin. So first thing over here, I check is, okay, it's been about 12 minutes since the last block was mined. Fees are higher than usual, between 55 cents and $1.10. Last night, the fees were as low as about 25 cents for a transaction on the Bitcoin network. Obviously, they're basically free on the Bitcoin Lightning Network, which is why small transactions take place on the Lightning Network. It's only the more expensive on-chain transactions that run right now between 55 cents or let's call it 91 cents and $1.10. So that is more higher fees than usual, which means a bunch of people woke up that are deciding to transact on the Bitcoin network that were not deciding to transact on the Bitcoin network yesterday. So that tells you something's going on. Let's see if we can figure out anything from here. Yeah, it just looks like the Bitcoin network's busy right now. So incoming transactions are, not huge right now, but people are willing to pay, more than they usually are to transact right now on the Bitcoin network. So anyway, the vital sign says, let's call it heart rate is elevated, or something positive, like the patient's been working out. So the vital signs of Bitcoin yesterday would have been pretty calm, like the resting heart rate was yesterday with fees on the Bitcoin network around 25 cents, 18 cents. Now they're close to $1, which means the patient's been working out. The patient is coming off of a workout. All right, and the last thing we'll check for, just for fun of it, is the Crypto Fear and Greed Index. Let's see if we can get it here. And here we go. The Crypto Fear and Greed Index shows a 50, which is neutral, and not much change from last month, which was neutral. Last week was neutral. Yesterday was greed, probably on the, as people were buying as a result of the China announcing a bunch of money printing, which again will end up affecting all the other money printing around the world. But right now it's neutral. So anyway, all right, with that, I'm going to stop screen sharing. And so in however long this video has been, what we've learned is Bitcoin's up, probably a result of global liquidity and institutional adoption. There's some positive news stories about institutional adoption, the white paper by NYDIG about Bitcoin being protected under the First Amendment law. You've got Fortune magazine covering the 9-page white paper that BlackRock just released recommending Bitcoin to their clients. So you've got that out there. And you've got other headlines that were not in the feeds today. But Bank of New York Mellon, which I think custodies about $50 trillion in assets, they're the largest custody firm, just got approval, I think, to custody Bitcoin in the last few days. So anyway, so it looks like a combination of institutional adoption, meaning sort of professional money versus, retail people like me and you sitting at home. It looks like institutional money has sort of woken up to, wow, there's about to be a ton of money printed. And as a result of that, people are starting to place their bets and buying Bitcoin. And so is this the start of the massive rally that takes us well into the 6 figures? I don't know. Nobody knows, but it feels like it might be, but it's also felt like it might be before. So we don't know. But all indications are positive. Stock market's up a little bit, and probably in somewhere between 3 to 6 hours, or probably 2 to 4 hours. I would say between 2 hours and 4 hours from now, if I check again, more of the news articles will be updated saying, hey, here's why Bitcoin's up today. There will typically be articles that are like, why is Bitcoin up today? Or 3 reasons why Bitcoin's up today. And it'll actually outline, because right now, as we're talking, the journalists that cover Bitcoin are doing exactly what I'm doing. They're all scouring data sources and news feeds and talking to people that might have a tip. And they're all trying to figure out what story are they going to write this afternoon explaining why Bitcoin's above $65,000 right now. But anyway, again, hopefully my process is helpful. Again, I check the price of Bitcoin, then I check the global stock market or US stock market. Then I Google the term Bitcoin, then I check X, Then I, as a bonus, go to the mempool and the crypto fear and greed index. Again, hopefully it's helpful. That's my process. And, now I'm going to get back to all the things I was doing before lunch. But now I know that, hey, Bitcoin's in a great spot. Vital signs are in sort of workout mode versus sleeping mode on mempool. And that tells me that, hey, stuff's happening, stuff's happening on the blockchain. Anyway, so hopefully it's helpful. I'll post this video as soon as Zoom, processes it. And again, hopefully my process is helpful. You ever have a great day, everyone. Happy to do videos on anything you find helpful. Thanks.